Okay, this is Bill Flaherty again. In this series of videos, I'm going to break down the defensive scheme that I've used for many years, and also hopefully that will help you to improve yourself on that side of the ball. The title of everything I'm doing is really how to compete and win when you don't have equal talent. That has actually been my situation in most cases of the 22 years I've coached. In only 1 year can I remember having as good or better personnel than the other team. And as I indicated in earlier videos, I've coached in 5 championship games in 22 years. So I've found ways out of necessity to try to equalize things a little bit. And with that, I'll get started on this. And we're going to discuss initially the defensive system philosophy, in that my defense is a multiple defense using gap control, which means each player has a responsibility for one gap. Once it's no longer threatened, then obviously we'll fly to the football. We're a base 8-man front, but we'll check out of it based on formation or situation. One thing that I have changed my ways on over the years is, in order to help with the safety of players, I suggest that we use rugby tackling techniques, which is what the Seattle Seahawks have used for many years. And if you don't know what that is, I suggest you go to YouTube and type in Seattle Seahawks tackling, and you'll see it. And it works for them. Obviously, they've always been an excellent defense, but it does help to take the head out of the game with the players. And not only will your players appreciate that, but their parents will as well. And you'll still be effective. So that would be my suggestion as far as that's concerned. Um, Basically, by a multiple defense, what I mean is we'll use even and odd fronts, depending on situations, field position, what the other team runs, etc. But I've done things in a way, particularly with terminology, so that it's pretty easy for our players to know what they're to do, no matter what defensive front they're in or coverage. And by the terminology that I use carries over from one to the other, so that they have an idea of where they're to be, and then whether they're going upfield or whether they're uh, attacking an offensive lineman to shut down a gap or whatever the case may be. Essentially, the defensive tackles and nose guard, I put them in a gap instead of aligning on a person. The gaps being A for center guard gap, B for guard tackle, C for tackle tight end, and D for outside. That's the same as everybody does. The one thing that I do, and this is a generic thing, we may or may not do that on a given weekend, but I flip my best players to the field when there's a hash situation. The reason being that I've found over the years that 80% of the time an offense is going to find some way to go to the wide side of the field. So in the case of defense, which I talked about in an earlier video, you're more geared toward personnel. So in an effort to emphasize that, I try to put my best players where we think that the play is going to go, obviously, which everybody I think would do. So you may or may not flip your personnel. I suggest that you do that if you're a situation where you're not pretty equal. On the defensive line, I break it down as the strong side defensive end I call the anchor end. But he plays in a 2-point stance and lines up on the tight end or the wide side of the field, depending on the scouting report. But he has to play great what's called veer technique. And that's a technique that's used against option teams, but it works against any offensive line situation. And he's got to be a man, frankly. He's going to be an excellent athlete, be a big guy. So he's going to have some power to him and some athleticism. But that technique is going to be critical to making sure that our linebackers can flow. The nose guard's down, and in a 4-point stance, he's responsible for one of the A gaps plus half of the other gap in the slant direction. And by that I mean, you'll see me say the same thing for the defensive tackles, in that he's going to, unless we're penetrating, he's going to attack an offensive lineman and try to drive him into the next gap as well, to try and get half of that gap to shut it down so that the linebackers, when they're coming to that, don't have as much space that they have to handle. So they're going to have to put out great effort on every down. So they're responsible for the gap they're going to be lined up in, plus driving their man into the other gap to try and shrink that down. And the defensive tackles are down and in a 4-point stance as well. They're responsible for B or C gap, depending on the front that's called, plus half of the gap in the slant direction. The defensive tackle to the tight end or wide side of the field will be the strong tackle. The defensive tackle away from the tight end or the wide side of the field is the weak tackle. We'll either penetrate the gap or we'll slant our lineman toward the offensive lineman that is their origin position, which you'll see demonstrated later on. A call from the linebacker of Pete would indicate penetrate versus attacking the lineman. And the defensive front will flip sides based on middle of the field or hash position. Linebackers, unless otherwise instructed in the game plan, the strong side linebacker, Sam, lines up behind the strong tackle. So you'll see our linebackers travel with the defensive tackles. The Mike linebacker lines up behind the nose guard, and the weak side linebacker, Will line up behind the weak tackle. The Will linebacker may also become a backside defensive end in a two tight end situation. So he's going to need to really be probably coached along with the anchor ends. You may want to have an outside linebacker and inside linebacker coach, because he will have to know how to play veer technique as well when he's playing over a tight end or H-back. Defensive backs, the strong safety lines up on the strong side if he's in the middle of the field, or the wide side if there's a boundary. The strong safety is usually a run support person. Free safety lines up away from the strong side and if in the middle of the field, or to the short side if there's a boundary. He'll usually shade one man heavy to a twin set if he's in the middle of the field, or if we've got a 2x2 alignment, he'll play to the speed side. So if there's one side has a tight end and a receiver, the other side has a back and a receiver, obviously the side with the back and the receiver is the speed side of that situation. We have the field corner. Again, you'll see all these people are following one another. The field corner, as well as the strong safety, lines up on the strong side if he's in the middle, wide side if there's a hash mark. Boundary corner is just that. He's going to play into the short side of the field if there's a hash, or away from the tight end or strong side. Strong safety and boundary corners have to be run support capable players, especially when we're in a cover 2 situation. The free safety and field corner are generally a pass first mentality. Against the run, the defensive lineman will attack the player that is their origin position, which you're going to see shortly. When it's in a pass, they're attacking the quarterback, but they've got to be aware of draws and screens. Linebackers will have the first open gap to either side of the defensive lineman based on the movement of a key. The linebackers will follow flow as well as track of the back. So if the flow is wide, they'll be a little flatter. If it's track of the back and they're running downhill, obviously we're going to be attacking that situation that way. In our pass, we've got all of your standard coverages, cover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Other than 5 or 6, we may do something different than you may call it. But basically, cover 5 is we show 2 deep, and then the strong safety rolls to the middle to attack the running play, whichever side it may be going to. And it's called to add a tackler to a run play or for pass defense when blitzes are called. And this could be a nickel situation and a pass situation, depending on the skills of your players. Cover 6 is we show cover 3, but we drop the free safety into the robber position into the intermediate middle zone, and both corners take the deep halves. The strong safety and will linebackers play the outside zones. Again, this is used when generally the inside linebackers are blitzing. I believe basically that the middle of the field is almost always open for a defense when I'm watching film. So I'm really kind of sensitive to that I always want to make sure I'm handling that intermediate middle zone, because everybody seems to leave that vacant, and it's a pretty easy opportunity for an offense to make a play. Blitz is the way I've called it. Basically, is guts is for the Mike linebacker. If I rub my belly with one hand, it's to go through the weak side hole. If it's two hands, he goes through the strong side hole. Willie, I touch the groin. That's for the white will linebacker. One hand is to weak in the weak side direction. Two hands, he'll go in the strong side direction. Storm is for the Sam linebacker. It's a cyclone movement with my hands. One hand weak side, two hands strong side. Rocket, which is thumbs up. One thumb is the will linebacker and Mike blitz weak side. Two thumbs up, the Sam linebacker and Mike blitz the strong side. Fire, which is an in or out and generally run in the stack defense. One gun is the linebackers blitz B gap, the defensive tackles take A gap. In two guns, then it's inside linebackers take A, defensive tackles take B. And basically that's to try and run like what would be called a double A gap blitz. And a lot of offensive lines get a little nervous when you start doing that stuff. And then smoke is just strong safety blitz. Personnel-wise, on the call sheet, if the wording is in black, it's just our regular personnel. If it's in red, it's for jumbo, as like a goal line situation. Blue would be lightning if it's a passing situation and we've got some big old son of a guns on the inside that don't rush so well and you want to replace them with some quicker people, you'd call lightning. And then green is for nickel in the secondary. Defensive fronts, again, in the even, we have your base 4-3. The anchor end, again, is on the strong side. There's a stack defense, which is your old gap 8, and goal line, which is generally a 6-man front. Then you're going to pull a secondary guy and insert an extra D tackle. In the odd, we run a nose, which is an odd front, but without having a real linebacker on the line of scrimmage. He plays as an off-the-ball linebacker. We have a 3 defense, which is just 3 down linemen. That's going to be your long yardage passing situations. And a 5, which is your basic 5-man front with 2 stand-up defensive ends and your 3 down linebackers. The linebacker alignment in stack and goal line is basically 2 inside linebackers, Sam and Mike. In the stack look, the will linebacker lines up outside or as a defensive end, depending on whether it is a goal line or whether it is a 2 tight end situation in the middle of the field where we want to make sure that's covered up. And then base and nose is 3 linebackers in a standard 4-3 alignment. What you'll see when we get into that, I tend to, because I'm putting my defensive linemen in the gaps for 2 reasons. One is to affect the offensive line and be able to penetrate. The other thing is you'll see that I put the linebackers behind the defensive linemen because I want to hide them. I also try to make sure that we don't have linebackers in a situation where someone's running downhill at them. I prefer to have my linebackers, just as my defensive linemen, take angles to offset potential physical deficiencies. So I don't want them to have to take a guy on face to face. I want them to be able to use an angle to get the man on the ground when he may be potentially outmanned in that situation. And then the secondary coverage numbers, again, you saw that on the previous page. And the defensive line goal is to be able to line up in a gap and attack an offensive lineman or to penetrate. The hand signal to the linebacker that's calling the defense is a Z, which is to indicate to the linebacker to call Pete for the defensive lineman to penetrate upfield. Otherwise, as you're going to see, they have a set responsibility in each front as to who they're going to attack, and unless they hear the word Pete behind them. Okay, getting into the defensive fronts. All the fronts and coverage examples are generic, and we can and will alter them based on the strengths of our players. These next few will be our even fronts. Their starting alignment and an even front for our defensive linemen is the anchor end is on the tight end, the strong side tight end. The strong tackle and nose guard are lined up head up on the offensive guards, and the weak side tackle, would be lined up on the weak side tight end. That's their starting point is in what I call a 2. Now, in the old days where you had 1, 2, and 3 alignments on a guard and 4, 4I, and 5 on a tackle, and 7, 8, and 9 on a tight end, I don't use because we go in and out of even and odd fronts. I normally use the terms 1, 2, and 3 no matter where someone's lined up. A 1 being inside leverage, 2 nose up, 3 outside leverage. But in this case, our starting position is nose up or 2 on those players. The first thing we're going to do is the base. The 2D tackles and nose guard are down. They attack the shoulder of the starting position offensive lineman, trying to drive them into the next gap. The anchors is up, as we indicated earlier, plays veer technique on the tight end or offensive tackle. When there is no weak side tight end, the weak tackle lines up on the outside of the offensive tackle to his side. The call Pete indicates lineman penetration. So the first sheet here is if the ball is in the middle of the field and pinch or penetrate can be used in any front. So base pinch puts the 2D, strong tackle and nose guard in the A gaps on each side of the center. Anchor end is in C gap and weak tackle is in C gap also, but in this situation he's on the outside of the offensive tackle. So pinch means that they move from their starting position or starting alignment into those places when they line up. A base over tells them to move over toward the strong side, starting from their starting position. So in this case, the strong tackle and nose guard would be over the 2 guards. They're going to in this situation, go over to their left into that gap. The weak tackle, remember, he's normally lined up over a second tight end, so he's moving into what would be C gap, but in essence, there's nobody there, so he's on the outside shoulder of the offensive tackle. The anchor, who would normally be in a 2 on the tight end now because it's over, he will go over onto the outside shoulder of the tight end. A base under tells them to do the opposite of that. The starting point they go move under is away from the strong side. So now the anchor's in C gap, the strong tackle's in strong side A, the nose guard is in weak side B, but the weak tackle's in the same position because there's no tight end. So he's still on the outside shoulder of the offensive tackle. But their responsibility is to attack the same person. The strong tackle and nose guard in our even fronts are going to attack the guard that is on their side of the center. And they're going to try, in this case, the strong tackle's in B gap, he's going to attack the offensive lineman. So not only is he in B gap, but he's going to try and shrink A gap with that offensive lineman and drive him inside. The nose guard, who would normally be head up on the weak side guard because of his alignment in weak side A, he's physically in A gap, but he's going to try to drive that offensive guard into B gap as much as possible. So what we're doing is having 4 men tie up 6 gaps by doing that. So they've got to put out effort on every play, so you're going to want to keep rotating people to keep them fresh. But that's their job, is to tie up the 6 gaps with 4 people. Same thing with the base under. Even though they're in a different gap now, you'll see the strong tackle is still responsible for the strong side guard. He's going to try and drive him into B gap, even though he's aligned up in A. So he's going to be physically in A gap, but trying to shrink B gap with the offensive lineman. And the same thing with the nose guard. Now he's in B gap, he's going to drive the guard toward A gap, so that he's basically using up a gap and a half, in effect. Then we have base. Now when there's a wide side of the field, remember what we're doing, we're flipping our personnel. So on the previous page, where because of the formation being strong to our left, anchor and strong tackle are on the strong side. Now, because there's a wide side of the field, unless the game plan calls for something different, but this is our standard way of doing things, Now you see the anchor and strong tackle are on the wide side of the field, which in this case is right. Nose guard and weak tackle are away. Even though the strength of the formation is to our left, we're playing percentages that they're going to find a way, they're going to bring this guy in motion, they're going to run something to get over here. So now the anchor is on it's a pinch, so we're putting the anchor in C, strong tackle and nose guard are in A gaps, weak tackle is in C gap. So again, but they're attacking the same people. If you notice, the nose guard is still attacking the guard on his side and filling that gap and trying to shrink down the next gap out. The weak tackle is attacking the inside shoulder of the tight end because that's his starting position, if you remember correctly. So he's responsible for that man, so he's physically dominating that gap there. The strong tackle has got this gap, this guard on this side, so he's got this gap already with his physical presence and also trying to drive this guy as much as possible into the next gap. Again, we're looking to shut down all these gaps with 4 men. And if we can't, then we make an adjustment. Then we also, instead of calling over or under, now we'll call base wide, telling our people to move to the wide side of the field from their starting position. So you see now the anchor's on the outside of this offensive tackle. The strong tackle, instead of being nose up on the guard, is now in the gap to the right because it's wide right. Nose tackle is still has guard responsibility, but now he's in A gap, and the weak tackle now is in C gap. Again, you can see they're still attacking the same people. They are responsible for that position, except in this case he's in B, so he's going to try and drive him into A. He's in A, he's going to try and drive him into B. We're tying this all up with 4 people. And the base short is nothing more than from their starting position, they go away from the wide side. So now you see A is in C, strong tackles in A, nose guards in B, weak tackles in C. So it's just very simple. It's all about effort and they have no trouble knowing where they're to be. Now we go into our stack defense. Again, this is middle of the field stack. I'm going to show Pete here in that now they're just going to penetrate the gaps. They're going to try not to touch anybody and get in the backfield. We can make that call from any defense that we're in. If we want a situation where we want to get upfield to change it up or whatever the case may be, that's all he's got to do is call Pete, and wherever they're lined up, they're going through that gap like the gates of hell have opened. So again, but their starting position is the same. This is pinch, so it puts everybody in strong tackle and nose guard because we're in the middle of the field. We're at A, weak tackle and anchor in C. And then in this case, they're going upfield. We got stack over. Everything's the same as our base defense. The only difference is because we're in stack, now our anchor stays in C gap. Okay, and basically what we're doing is we're covering up these linebackers, which you'll see in the next video about the linebacker alignments. And then stack under, again, takes everybody from their starting position, with the exception of the A, who now has C gap in stack defense. Everybody else from their starting position is moving away from the strong side, but they're attacking the same person they did in the base defense. Everything's the same, so again, they don't have to think, they just have to bust their butt and do what they're supposed to do. And now we've got the stack defense where the wide side is to the right in this instance. We're doing pinch with Pete again, but what you notice is now the anchor is on the right side, so as the strong tackle, nose guard, and weak tackle are away from that because we're playing percentages. But in this case, again, they're getting upfield. Now the call would be stack wide. If we said stack over, they would be going to the strong side of the field. But because I want them to go to the wide side of the field, the call is stack wide, which means from their starting position, which he would be in this situation, he's going to go to his right in this situation into that gap. But his playing responsibilities when the ball is snapped is exactly the same. He's responsible for this gap plus half of that one. 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 We're tying this up with 4 people, but we're putting our best players where the play is likely going to go. And then we have stacked short because let's say they catch on, they're trying to run into the short side of the field. We can still put our people here to play percentages, but now we say short. All we're doing is shifting our people toward the boundary, but they have the same exact responsibility. The strong tackle, although he's on the right side, has got to take the guard, so he's responsible for A gap, but he's going to push him into this one. Now he's in B, he's going to shut him down to A. He's in C, he's going to push him down into here. So you can see, and again, our anchor is in C gap. In this case, C gap doesn't really exist because there's no tight end. But you can see the concept of putting players in the best position, but also being able to adjust when they get wise and say, aha, they're going to the wide side of the field, we'll run to the short side. Well, we can put our people there without a problem, no matter. But our players don't have to try to remember 100 different things. They only have to remember over and under, wide and short, and then go like hell. Then we get in goal line. Now in this situation, you'll see I've put in red jumbo personnel. So what we're going to do, everybody's the same. It's the same concept. In this case, we're in the middle of the field. Our anchor, our strong tackle are on the strong side, our nose guard and weak tackle are on the weak side. But you see our will linebacker has walked up as a stand-up defensive end, so he's going to be playing veer technique. But we bring in a third tackle and pull either the free safety in all likelihood because it's a physical situation. So we'll pull the free safety and insert a third tackle, and this is an over, a pinch, I'm sorry. So everybody now is in a gap in these 4 here, and we're penetrating. These guys are still playing veer technique because they're going to be covering up the linebackers that are here. So they're basically holding these people up, not only to make a play, but make sure this man can run free. Goal line over, again, moves everybody. You see strong tackles here, third tackles there, but what are they doing? They're attacking the people, right? He's attacking the guard. He's attacking the guard. It's the same people they did in the base and the stack defense. Weak tackles doing the same thing. They've moved over toward the strong side, but they're still attacking the same person. Will linebacker and anchor are still playing the veer technique. And then if we go under, it's the same routine. You see the strong tackle still here. The nose guard, even though he's moved over to the right, is still attacking the guard. The weak tackle, although he's over, is attacking the tackle. And will linebacker still playing veer along with anchor. So again, we don't have to know a lot of things. We just have to do them at great effort. Now we're going to our odd defensive fronts. Their starting alignment is a little different than an even because we're in an odd defense. Our anchor is still on the tight end. The strong tackle now, instead of being on the guard, is on the tackle. The nose guard, instead of being on the guard, is on the center. The weak tackle, instead of being in C gap, is responsible for this offensive tackle. That's their responsibility everywhere that we put them. They have to attack that man from wherever they are, whether it's here or there, here or there, here or there. They're attacking this man. That's their job, is to beat the living hell out of him for the whole game. The first one we're going to show is if we're in a obvious long passing situation and we want to give ourselves 8 men in the secondary, we go with a 3. A 3 under takes our men who are normally this tackle would be on this tackle here. An under means away from the strong side, so he moves to his right 1. He's responsible for this gap, but you'll notice he's still attacking that man. The nose guard, instead of being head up on the center now, is in the weak side A gap. He's responsible for the center. The defensive tackle, instead of being head up on the tackle, now is outside of him, away from the strong side, but attacking him. The 3 over is the exact opposite. Instead of being here now, he's moved over toward the strong side, attacking that man and responsible for the gap they're in, plus shrinking the next gap over. A shade is a different, in the odd fronts, we can do a couple of things that we can't in an even. A shade basically puts both defensive tackles in B gap, but puts the nose guard in A gap to the strong side. But their responsibilities are what? We're going after the same people. This arrow is wrong. This should be he's attacking the center, and then he's attacking inside here. I'm sorry, he's going to be attacking the tackle, so I made a mistake on these arrows, but you'll see that the linebackers will be responsible for these gaps. And then we have an eagle out of a 3, where basically it's the same thing. The defensive tackles are in B gap, but now the nose guard is over in A. And you'll see what I was talking about just before in the shade. Even though the tackle is over away from the strength side, he's attacking that tackle. The nose guard, he's in the other B, he's attacking the center. The weak tackle, although he's in the same B gap, he's attacking the offensive tackle. That's his man the whole game, as long as we're in an odd front. Nothing to think about except go like crazy. Then if there's a wide side of the field, all we've done is flipped our personnel, but the concepts are exactly the same. So now they've got their starting point, but the call 3 wide tells our people to move to the wide side of the field. Now your strong tackle is on the outside of this offensive tackle, but his responsibility is the same. He's going to beat this guy up all game. Nose guard is moved over away to the wide side of the field, but he's going to attack the center. The weak tackle is moved over toward the wide side, but he's still attacking the tackle. 3 short is just the opposite. They've moved over the other way, but they're attacking the same people, just from a different angle. They're always responsible for the gap they're in, plus half the next one over. 3 shade, again, the shade is to the wide side of the field in this situation. So again, you've got nose guard and strong tackle. He's attacking the tackle, he's attacking the center, he's attacking the tackle. And then eagle is obviously just the opposite, but they're still doing the same exact thing as they would have done before. So again, no confusion, just effort. Then we have a nose front, where we have our same 4 defensive linemen. We had an all our even fronts, but now we've got the nose, if you remember our base alignments, where they were over the centers, over the tackles, and over the tight ends. Now it's nose is the call for this defense, but it's over. So what are we going to do? We're going over toward the strength. And the strength is whatever we've told them is going to be our key for that week. Now the anchor's on the outside shoulder, the strong tackles in C gap, the nose guards in A, and the weak tackle now is in weak side B. Okay, so again, we would play this if we had the middle of the field and they had a tendency toward the strong side here, or if there's a wide side to your left, we're going to overplay the wide side of the field wherever it is, because we feel that's the percentage in most cases. Then nose under is nothing more than the same thing, right? So now the anchor end though will stay on the outside shoulder of this tight end, but the strong tackle now from his starting position will move to his right, which is under or away from the strength, but he has the same man responsibility. Same thing with the nose tackle. He's moved over, but he's got the center. Weak tackle is moved over, but he's got the tackle. Then we have nose shade. Again, we can play a team that has a heavy strong side tendency by doing this. So shade is the tackles are in B gaps, but the nose guard comes over onto the strong side. But he still has the center, the tackle has the tackle has the tackle, anchor has the tight end, but in a veer technique. So he's shutting this guy down and shutting down this gap so that the linebackers can flow to whatever goes on. Their job is to tie up linemen and allow our linebackers to run to the football without having people coming upfield on them. And then nose eagle is the same thing. Again, the tackles are in B gap, but now the nose guard is away from the strength. But he still has the same person that he's beating up on, as do the tackles. Okay? So again, our linebackers are free to run because these gaps are going to either be shut down or shrunken to where they don't have to play in as big a gap as they normally would have to. And then we have the nose, same thing if there's a wide side of the field. It's the same exact concept. You know, we've got, except that we've flipped our personnel. Nose wide, the anchor's here, so wide is to the right. Strong tackle is going to be moving from his starting alignment to here. Nose guard from the starting alignment to here. Weak tackle from starting alignment to here. Again, you'll have a will linebacker out here. We'll either keep him off the ball or walk him up on here, basically creating a 5, but he may hang out somewhere in here to be able to play. And if he gets up here, he may not be able to defend something in that gap if they were to kick him out. So we may have him play off a little bit. But you can see we've got the wide side of the field taken care of. Same thing here with nose short. What have we got? The tackle now has come down away from the wide side of the field. He's in B gap, but he's attacking the same person. Nose guard attacking the same person. Weak tackle attacking the same person. And the anchor is free in this situation. In all likelihood, they're going to bring this man over somehow to create a twins, but we've still got everything covered here because our strong safety, as you'll see later on, will be here as well. Then we have nose shade. The shade is toward the wide side in this situation. Tackles are in B. Nose guard comes over toward the wide side, but everybody's attacking the same man. Nose eagle, tackles are in B gap. The nose goes away from the wide side, but we're attacking the same people. Consistency from front to front. And a 5 is nothing more than you got 2 tight end situation, not counting a goal line spot. And we feel like, or they brought in another back who's a bigger back, maybe more of a downhill runner versus a wide runner. So maybe we go to a 5. And all we are is just the same as your 3 and nose alignments to these 3 guys in the middle, but your anchor and will linebackers are playing via technique on the tight ends, right? But over is the same thing. They're from their starting position, they're moving one gap over, and then but playing the same man in every situation. Under is the same thing. They're away from the strong side, but they're playing the same man. Will linebacker and anchor are doing the same thing, playing your technique. Then shade is the same as the shade before in the nose front. They're in B gap. Nose guard comes strong side, but they're attacking the same person. Consistency from front to front. And then the Eagles, the same thing. They're in B gaps. Nose guard comes to the weak side now, but you see, these gaps are all shut down. We're shutting down 3.5 gaps with 2 people. Okay, that helps the defense because that lets our linebackers be unmolested most of the time. And then we have the same situation where we've got the wide side to the right. All we've done is flipped our personnel, but our concepts are exactly the same as they were in the previous defenses. A 5 wide now just says that from your starting position, you're going to move one gap to your right in this situation, but attack the same person. Short, you're moving away from the wide side, but attacking the same person. Shade, again, the shade will be to the wide side because that's the side that's called. And again, B gap, nose is here, everybody's attacking the same man, and eagle is the same concept as it was in the other fronts. And that's it from a front standpoint. It's very simple for our players to know what to do, be where they're supposed to be, which is what I believe is the case with defense. You've got to be where you're supposed to be doing the right thing all the time. And this helps to do that because no matter who's in the game, you'll know that they're at least doing the right thing regardless of their physical traits. And that is half the battle, is everybody being where they're supposed to be because worst case, a weaker defensive lineman may get double teamed by 2 offensive linemen because they're worried about penetration, and that still lets our linebackers run unmolested to the ball. So it's not as important to have great defensive linemen doing these sorts of things because everybody will know what to do. So I hope that helps you. Again, if you have questions or you want me to come to your program if you're in North Atlanta, please send me an email at footballcoachesforum@gmail.com. Be happy to talk to you, happy to come out and see you, and I hope this helps. Thanks again.